Have you ever sat alone in silence and felt a storm begin to rise inside you? Not a loud storm, but a quiet, aching kind. A gnawing restlessness, a weight in the chest, an uneasiness that words cannot quite explain. That's worry. It creeps in slowly, sometimes in the middle of the night, sometimes in the brightness of day. And no matter how much you try to push it away, it stays, it lingers, it haunts. But what if I told you this worry is not your enemy? What if it's a message? What if it's your soul trying to speak? According to Swiss psychiatrist Carl Gustav Jung, worry is not simply a psychological glitch or a flaw in your thinking. It's a symptom, a signal from your deeper self. Not the self you show to the world, but the one you've hidden, the one you've forgotten, the one you've been afraid to meet. Jung believed that we all wear masks. He called this the persona, the version of ourselves we present to society. It's the smile we put on when we feel like crying. It's the confidence we fake when we feel lost inside. It's the silence we offer when something inside us is screaming to be heard. We were taught to be strong, to be kind, to be good. But in trying so hard to be what the world wanted us to be, many of us lost touch with who we really are. And that is where worry begins. Worry isn't random. It's not just a chemical imbalance or a thinking error. It's a signal, a whisper from deep within that says, something inside you is not at peace. Carl Jung understood this better than anyone. He believed that much of human suffering comes from what he called the disintegration of the self. This means we are not living as whole beings. Instead, we are split, divided inside. There is the person we show to the world, the persona, and then there is the real self, the hidden one, the one we've buried because it didn't feel safe to show. We do this as children. We quickly learn what parts of us are acceptable and what parts are not. Maybe our anger wasn't welcome. Maybe our sensitivity made others uncomfortable. Maybe our dreams were mocked. And so, we cut off those parts of ourselves. We push them down. But here's the truth Jung discovered. What you resist not only persists, but grows stronger. Every time you rejected a part of yourself to gain approval, those pieces didn't disappear. They went underground. They became part of what Jung called the shadow. The shadow isn't evil. It's not bad. It's simply the parts of you that you've rejected. It's your unmet needs, your denied feelings, your suppressed desires, your hidden pain. And when those parts stay hidden for too long, they begin to act on their own. This is why we worry, lash out, overthink, freeze, or feel emotionally overwhelmed, even when everything seems fine. Because the truth is, something inside is not fine. Jung taught us that anxiety is the voice of the unconscious trying to get our attention. Not to scare us, but to save us. It wants to be seen. It wants to be known. It wants to be integrated. But that process of facing our shadow isn't easy. It requires deep inner work. It means looking at the parts of ourselves we've spent a lifetime avoiding. But the reward is healing, is wholeness, is peace. Have you ever reacted so strongly to something that even you didn't understand why? Maybe someone said something small, but it triggered a storm inside you. Or maybe you made a mistake and suddenly felt like a total failure, even though it was minor. These moments are not just overreactions. They are signs of something deeper, something Jung called autonomous complexes. Complexes are like emotional fragments, splinters of past pain, shame, or unresolved trauma that live in the unconscious. They are formed when something painful happens and we are unable to fully process or accept it. Instead of integrating the experience, the psyche walls it off. But it doesn't go away. It becomes its own little entity, a living force within us. It thinks, feels, and acts on its own. This is why we feel taken over by fear, panic, jealousy, rage, or shame that feels disproportionate. Until you make the unconscious conscious, Jung warned, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Each complex is like a ghost from our personal history. The wounded child, the rejected lover, the humiliated student. They speak through worry. They live through our fears. They hijack the present with emotions from the past. But here's the thing Jung wanted us to know. You are not your complexes. They are parts of you, but they are not the whole of you. And if you can face them, not repress them, they lose their grip. They no longer need to control you because they've been heard. This is why anxiety often returns again and again, no matter how much you try to think your way out of it, because the mind cannot fix what the soul is asking you to feel. Worry is not a logical problem. It's a symbolic message. And in the language of the unconscious, anxiety is a cry for reunion with the parts of yourself you left behind. When worry creeps in, what do we usually do? We try to fix it. We turn to logic. There's nothing to fear. We distract ourselves, scrolling on social media, watching TV, working harder, or we try to escape it through meditation, breathing exercises, or self-help mantras. And sometimes these help for a little while, but often the worry comes back. Why? Because worry is not just a surface problem. It's a deep spiritual and psychological crisis. A crisis born from division inside us, the split between what we show the world and what we hide in our unconscious. The mind can only soothe so much, because the true problem lies in parts of ourselves we don't yet know, parts we don't yet accept. Jung used the iceberg as a metaphor. The small, visible part is our conscious mind, but the massive, submerged part is the unconscious. Worry arises from that deep underwater world. Trying to stop worry with logic or distraction is like sweeping the tip of the iceberg, but ignoring the vast bulk beneath. This process is challenging. It requires courage. It requires honesty. But it is the path to true healing. Because when we integrate our shadow and unconscious complexes, when we stop fighting ourselves, worry loses its power and peace begins. At the heart of worry lies a desperate need, a need for control. Control over our lives, control over the future, control over what others think. This need comes from the ego, the conscious I we identify with. The ego wants safety, certainty, predictability, but the ego is limited. It is a small part of who we really are. Jung taught that the ego is like a captain trying to steer a massive ship, but it only controls the bridge. Beneath the waterline lies the unconscious, vast, deep, mysterious. When the ego tries to control everything, it fights against the natural flow of life. And this struggle creates anxiety, because life is uncertain, unpredictable, full of mystery. Jung didn't condemn the ego. He simply warned against over-identifying with it, because when we are the ego, we become rigid, fearful, and anxious. But when we realize the ego is just one part, a tool of the self, we can start to loosen our grip. We can begin to trust the deeper currents of life. Peace begins when we stop trying to control everything, when we stop fighting our inner world, when we listen to the messages behind our worry. And when we remember, the ego is not the whole story. The self, the deeper soul within, is far bigger, wiser, and more peaceful.